Don't let failure ever stop you. Use your brain, use your creativity. For example, look at Slack. That thing came out, and that was a complete failure. They too tried a game. The game didn't work, but whatever Slack was became the success, was a dialogue on the side of it. So it's one of the most important messages I have for entrepreneurs is that failure should inspire you to get smarter. And unfortunately, our school system says if you fail, you're stupid. That is not true. We learn from our mistakes. Mistakes are opportunities to get smarter, be humble, and take a look at something. The cash flow board game, just like Slack, was a failure. So I had to write Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is a true story about my rich dad and my poor dad. I went on the Oprah show and suddenly I became famous. That's an entrepreneur story. That's who I am. Most of the young people today, a lot of them want to become entrepreneurs. The problem with this, you have to understand tax. This is all over the world, very little difference. These guys pay 40% of their money in taxes. So they make $1,000, they're going to spend $400 in taxes. These guys that make $1,000, they're going to pay 60% in tax. So our schools are teaching entrepreneurship, but they're not teaching them tax because they're focusing on income. Over here, it's 20% in tax. So they make $1,000, only $200 goes to tax, and these guys, 0%. So the reason financial education isn't working in our school system is they're teaching financial education for these people and these people, but to really become rich, you have to focus on this side here. And that's the difference between a rich dad and what they're teaching in school right now. I'd rather be on this side. This side is a lot harder, but in the long run, it's more fun for me. On this side here, it's harder, but you're paying tax constantly. These guys here are saying tax to rich. Well, these guys don't pay taxes. As strange as that may seem, and I'm talking about legal, this is all over the world. That's the big difference here. One last thing, which I think most millennials understand, is, in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I wrote about Ray Kroc, founder of McDonald's. And he was teaching at the University of Texas, the MBA program. And most of the MBAs are going to come out here. So Ray Kroc asked him, he says, what business is McDonald's in? And everybody yelled and said, no, we know you're in hamburgers. And Ray says, McDonald's is not hamburgers. McDonald's is in the business of real estate over here. So you have McDonald's here, and the money McDonald's makes buys the real estate. And that is my formula. This is Rich Dad, I own real estate. I don't hang out here. The formula I follow personally is McDonald's. We have an education company that buys real estate, which means we make a lot of money, pay zero tax legally. So I got a job with Xerox. That's the last job I ever had. So when you look at the cash flow quadrant here, ESBI, here I was, okay? I was making a lot of money at Xerox. I went to Xerox for one thing, not the money. I worked at Xerox because I had to learn how to sell, because entrepreneurs have to learn how to sell. So I was preparing for this quadrant here, but I was really preparing for the big business quadrant. So I took a job at Xerox for 4 years. I was preparing for these two quadrants here. So when I talk to young people like you're here in social media, you're learning the same thing I was learning at Xerox. So the lesson to young people is don't take a job for the money, take a job for what you're learning.
Yeah.
The young people like you leave school think, oh, if I know the right answers, then there's no risk. And it drives old guys like me crazy. Because everybody's talking about millennials. What's wrong with them? Millennials are the most highly educated generation in history. They have the cell phone. They didn't get educated in school. They got educated on social media, on the cell phones. They know all the answers, but they're afraid of doing anything. The biggest complaint about my generation is millennials know all the answers, but they can't do anything. And the reason they can't do anything is because you might hurt somebody's feelings, you might make a mistake. And this just keeps you guys just trapped in this little box here.
Yeah.
If you're going to come into my world, old guy's world, or the information age, you've really got to understand what is risky and what is not risky. And in my world, if you play it safe, that makes you stupid. Because if you don't take risks, you don't get smarter. So you may know the answer, but you can't do anything. And one of the best things I had is I went to military school, then I went to flight school. I had such great teachers, all of them could fly. So my flight instructor could fly. What a novel idea. A flight instructor can fly. But when I was in high school, most of my teachers were terrified. They're all cowards, job security, don't make mistakes. Just memorize the right answer and you'll be safe. And that's why most school teachers aren't rich.
Yeah.
And they teach that to your generation today.
Yeah.